Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Hospitality Edge podcast. This podcast is meant to bring together what we think are two sides of the same coin, real estate and hospitality. Whether you are a current or aspiring short-term rental property manager, host, or real estate investor, you're in the right place. Dive in with us to uncover the captivating stories and golden nuggets from industry heavyweights, including leaders, operators, investors, syndicators, founders, and entrepreneurs. So thank you. Really, thank you for embarking on this journey with me. I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to this podcast, and I promise I'll do my best to deliver value-packed episodes that hopefully will not just inform, but also help inspire the next generation of real estate and hospitality professionals. Truly yours, Sebastián Muñoz. All right, welcome, Julie. How are you today?
G'day. I'm fantastic. I'm coming to you from Australia. So, Sebastian, where in the world are you based? I'm not sure.
Yeah, Montreal. So I'm in Montreal, you're in Australia, and it's so nice that we can have this conversation thanks to technology. And just excited to have you on the show. For anyone that's new to the Hospitality Edge podcast, this is a show that's meant to bring what we believe are two sides of the same coin, hospitality and real estate together. And I'm super proud and more than excited to have Julie on today because she is the face, if not one of the faces of, vacation rentals, short-term rentals, property management. You speak with anyone in this space, they're going to know her. And she has an amazing story, anywhere from, being a serial entrepreneur with some businesses you had before getting into Airbnb. You were a real estate agent.
Yes.
Then you got into, property management. You scaled that operation to 130 properties in 3 years and exited that. So that's amazing. There's going to be so much for us to cover there. And now you're so involved, as an author, as a coach, as a speaker. You're hosting masterminds, you're hosting events. You're even gonna be a Netflix superstar. So I'm. There's a lot here to cover.
Homework.
So, Julie, for anyone out there that is living under a rock and hasn't heard of Julie, can you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you've been up to these days?
Oh, I definitely will. But I'm so impressed with you, Sebastian, that you've done your homework and you know so much about me. Have you been stalking? Oh, yeah,
A little bit. Does it show?
Folks, thank you for tuning in to the Hospitality Edge. I'm really excited, firstly, that Sebastian is front and center on this amazing show. Sebastian and I have had some incredible conversations at many conferences, in many exhibitor halls.
All over the world, huh?
Incredible. And I know we're saying the last time we saw each other was London, and we're going to talk about where we'll see each other next very soon. But it's just he is such a kind and generous man who is so well loved by the industry. And now we're going to make sure that this podcast, I'm hoping, will be going viral soon. So if I've got anything to do with it, everybody's going to know who this gentleman is here. As for me, I'm based in Australia, as you can tell from this accent, and 2016, I discovered short-term rentals for myself with my one property. I really thought that there may be something more to it and created a property management business, a unique business structure that I then scaled very, very quickly in 2.5 years to 130 properties.
That's
So
crazy.
we turned over $8 million. Now that blows my mind, because after the first year, I wrote a book called $1 Million Host. If I'd waited 2 years, I could have written a book called Multi-Million Dollar Host. But, we won't be fussy. So, folks, I was then right time, right place. I was able to sell my business in 2019 and exit out of the actual running of these businesses. Now, that was 3 months earlier, 3 months prior to COVID, unfortunately, coming into all of our lives. So the timing was pretty amazing. And so I was able to exit. At that stage, my book had gone bestseller around the world. I was getting a lot of speaking opportunities. I was getting into the Brian Chesky's offices of the world in San Francisco. And I knew that my passion really had transferred to educating and helping others and supporting others and mentoring others to discover that success that I had already seen in the short-term rental industry. So here I am now. I get to fly around the world, go to conferences. I run masterminds. I run retreats. It's really just an excuse to catch up with my friends like
That's
Sebastian
right.
and can count it as a tax deduction. But yeah, I now share what my knowledge, all the documents that I used to use in my business. I put it out there for others to now use.
That's awesome, Julie. And we'll get it, to talk about what are some of those masterminds and projects that you're working on. Before that, I want to talk about that model that allowed you to scale so fast, from 0 to 130 properties in 2.5 years. That's crazy. Not only because that's a lot of properties, but also because you did it, without a PMS, without tech, without a
I
lot of
did. That's
employees.
right.
It's just crazy. I was
Yeah.
watching some of your previous podcasts on how you waited, and you didn't hire anyone in your actual operation before you had 50 properties. And I think one of the interesting things that in your approach was that whole co-host model, where you were incentivizing people in your team, not just as an employee, but you were really bringing them on as partners. So would you mind just talking to us a little bit about why you decided to do this differently, what that entailed, and kind of what's the success that brought you, as opposed to just going the traditional route of hiring people?
Yeah, look, I got into this business with the mindset that I wanted to work on the business, not in the business, right from the outset. I
Hmm.
know previously I had worked in a corporate job, and stress is not my friend. In fact, stress had led to some pretty serious health issues for me. And I just realized that I didn't want a boss anymore. I wanted financial freedom, but I also wanted a lifestyle. So, getting into short term rentals, I thought I need to set up a business structure that allowed for all of those things. Um, but what it meant was that I needed to find like I knew that I needed to employ a team, but I wanted that team to be empowered. I wanted them to be loyal. I wanted them to be driven. And to do so, I had to really make sure that I gave them the responsibility and the opportunity to have endless earnings in their roles. So I couldn't just hire a cleaner and put them on an hourly rate, because honestly, there's limits to how much they can earn in that case. They don't take pride in their work, because why would they? Who cares?
Hmm.
And then also, there's they're not driven to get more business in the door for you. So with my model, and I'm going to tell you the story of how it all began. So I
Hmm.
was doing it all myself. I had taken on quite a few properties. I think I had 10 properties at the time that I sat down with a very dear friend of mine, Glenn. Now,
Hmm.
Glenn was 70 at the time. He had just retired from his advertising career. And we worked together in the good old Yellow Pages days. So that's now just going to show you, your audience, how old I am. If anyone knows Yellow
Doesn't
Pages,
show at all.
there we go. Good answer. So the Yellow Pages days. So he had come to the end of his career, and he said to me, Julie, I don't want to retire. I really want to keep earning money. I want to be my own boss, because he was used to working commission only. And I needed help. I said to him, well, do you have a mop, a bucket, a vacuum cleaner, and a smartphone? Here's 10 properties. I want you to look after all guest communications. I want you to meet and greet the guests. I want you to clean the property, and I want you to do the laundry. But you've also got to look to see if there's any damages. You've got to come back to me immediately if there's any damages or parties.
Hmm.
And I want you to make sure that you're happy with running these properties. Now, your key performance indicator will be that we need to get 5-star ratings. And so that was
Hmm.
what was going to really measure the success, whether he could do this or not. With that, I was charging a homeowner 25% commission to
Hmm.
manage their homes for them. Plus, I was keeping the cleaning fee. So when Glenn came on and took 10 properties and took responsibility of the day-to-day running of those properties, I then paid him 6% commission plus the cleaning fee. So
Hmm.
straight away, I had 19% that I knew that was going to cover off the consumables, any software I was running, and bring me some money. Well, he was then had a little franchise of his own, a little portfolio that he knew that he had 10 properties. Now, if he was able to cope with those 10 properties and had the capability to take on more, I was going to allocate another property to him, because what it did was, by him running those properties, I was able to free my time up and do what I did best. And
Mm-hmm.
that was going out and marketing and getting more listings. And so, really, I found this beautiful way of becoming the matchmaker. For me, I became the matchmaker between a homeowner, a property owner who wants to get into short term rentals. They want a piece of
Mm-hmm.
the pie, but they don't have the time, the knowledge, or they just don't know how to do it. And I
Mm-hmm.
became the matchmaker between them and then the budding entrepreneur waiting for a business in a box opportunity like
Mm-hmm.
Glenn, and wanting somebody to say, here, this is what you need to do, A, B, C, and D. Go out, look after these 10 properties, do the guest communications, the cleaning, the laundry, and this is how you're going to earn your money. So I became that conduit between the two people, and it worked so beautifully.
The fact that you grew that to 130 properties in 2.5 years just shows how brilliant that was. And I'm curious to know how much of it was
Mm.
intentional and by design versus, because this wasn't your first business, right? You had already started other businesses before that. You had started a secretarial business, as well as, an Uber Eats before it even existed, shop and deliver, where you would run errands. And
You're
so,
so awesome that you
you
know.
learn things along the way of those experiences,
Yep.
which I guess you now try to do differently with this new venture that allowed you to scale so fast. So what would you say are some of the main lessons from those previous
Wow.
entrepreneurial experiences of yours that you applied, and how much of it was intentional versus just, it just happened?
Accidental
Yeah.
success.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really interesting. Yes, I had always been the wannabe entrepreneur. I really had tried my hand at a few different businesses, secretarial business, the errand running business. Uh, but what I'd done, in hindsight, I look back, and what I had done, Sebastian, in those businesses was I had created a job for myself. I hadn't created a business. I had replaced
Hmm.
my income. I'd created a job for myself, but I hadn't looked at a structure to be able to scale a business to the
Hmm.
point where I didn't have to work. In those other businesses, I had to work. Now, in hindsight, I look back on those things and I think, my goodness, I could have done it so differently. But
Hmm.
in this business, I came in thinking I need to let go, delegate, trust in others straight away, and find
Hmm.
people that are better at these tasks than I am. So it was a real self-analysis, and I would suggest that anyone listening to this right now, if you are a CEO or you're running your own business, I want you to do a self-assessment. Work out what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, what tasks give you energy that you do, what tasks
Hmm.
drain you of energy, but then put a dollar figure on those tasks. So if you are constantly finding yourself on emails all day on your phone, or you're going back and forward communicating with guests, that you realize that that's probably something that you could pay somebody $10 an hour to do as a virtual assistant, or find yourself a Glenn like I did, a co-host. You
Hmm.
need to be able to really look in the mirror and say to yourself, what is it that I'm doing in my role? What do I want to do? But go in with that plan straight away to say, okay, well, as soon as I get 10 properties, I'm going to be able to put somebody on. Now, we talked very briefly before, I didn't employ these people because, once again, when you start a business, and a lot of people will be nodding in agreement when I say this, it is like a roller coaster. You
Hmm.
have these highs and lows when you are earning all this money, and suddenly you think you're rich and you've
You
made
made
it,
it.
and
Yeah.
then all of a sudden you've got to reinvest it all into software or taxes or whatever it might be, or finding a new team member, and it
Hmm.
feels terrible. So you take these highs and lows, and until I had 50 properties, I didn't have the stable income coming in on a regular basis that I could feel like I could that I could be responsible for someone's wage and somebody's long-term well-being in my business. So
Hmm.
I decided that contractors were really the way to go for me. So that was where with the contractors, because I was paying them a commission plus the cleaning fee.
Hmm.
that was driving them to go out and get more bookings, longer bookings, upsell on any extra services we had, to get more listings in, because if they could find another property, they may be able to take that into their portfolio. So suddenly, the Glens that I had working for me, the co hosts, were my salespeople as well as driving that income.
Hmm.
They were taking pride because they knew they had to get 5 stars to retain that property portfolio. So it was really,
That's so interesting.
it's,
You
yeah,
were
and it,
creating entrepreneurs rather than employees. They say you get what you incentivize, right? And you were incentivizing these people to do a good job, far above and beyond just being a cleaner or just replying to guests. So I think that's super interesting, and it seems like it was intentional. It seems like you did ask yourself those
it
questions, and
was
you came in with a perspective of, I
mm,
want to work on the business, not
not
in the
in the
business, which I
business.
think a lot of, just property managers in general, we talk with a lot of property managers that are in different stages of growth. And it's not an easy transition, Julie,
No.
to go from working in the business, to working on the business. So how did
Mm,
you go through that transformation? What
yeah.
is it that opened your eyes to that reality that you could, either be just replacing your income with another job, or you could actually scale this into something that can run, for itself? How did you come to that conclusion? Was it a coach? Was it a
Mm,
mentor? There was not a Julie
no.
George back then
No,
that
there
had the
wasn't.
books that you could just go and read. So how
Nobody.
did you come to that realization?
At that stage, 2016, when I started this business, there was nothing out there in terms of resources for education. And so I really had to do it the hard way and learn by mistake. And I
Yeah.
made plenty of mistakes. So please, folks, if you're listening right now, don't think that it was all easygoing. Million Dollar Host that will tell you there's plenty of horror stories in there where I took any property that I thought was going to be, well, anybody who was giving me a property, I was saying yes to,
Okay.
until we had then the police coming, and then we had reviews saying about the drug deals that were going on outside, and so
Wow.
there was plenty of mistakes that were going on. But I think the mindset piece was really, it was almost like a maturity of, I had gone through a terrible time with a corporate burnout and breakdown that I'd had. I was driven to never have to be in a 9 to 5 role again.
Hmm.
So the drive for that financial freedom and that lifestyle was so important for me. But I also had realized that there's some really good people out there that you can trust and you can delegate to, and that are very, very good when it comes to doing tasks that you might not be so skilled at. So for
Hmm.
me, I am a terrible, terrible, terrible cleaner. Do never ask me to clean your property,
And
because
yet
I
you were
will do it.
cleaning, your own properties for a while, no?
I was cleaning, and then I realized how bad I was, Sebastian, because the reviews weren't great. There was always a hair on a pillow, or there was something going on, and so I realized that I needed to replace that role really quickly. And thank
Hmm.
goodness Glenn, who came in, was fantastic. He was very good, but I just had to recognize that, and I think it's really hard for people to recognize that they're not perfect at everything. But it was an awakening to me to say, okay, you're not good at cleaning, Julie. You're not very good at accounting, but you are good at marketing. You're good at getting on and promoting yourself shamelessly, and building a brand, and then attracting those people that want to come into the space. So I never.
Self-awareness, right? Knowing what you're good at, what do you enjoy, what do you not enjoy, and I think asking yourself those questions for anyone that's an entrepreneur is crucial. So that's awesome, Julie. What about, you went on to scale this super
Mm,
fast, and then you sold the business.
yeah.
Was it something that was, part of the vision when you were starting? You were thinking, let's grow this and let's exit? Because nowadays you see a lot of property managers that start with an exit in mind.
Yeah.
Was it part of the vision, or it just kind of happened?
No, that part was accidental.
Okay.
That was me thinking, I'm going to build this business and it's going to run itself and I'm going to be happy. And it did get to the point where I was only working 10 hours a week. At 130 properties, I was working 10 hours a week and would show up to my office, and the girls would be standing at the front door saying, "Stop, what are you doing here? Don't come in,
Really?
don't touch anything," because they knew that I didn't know the business as well as they did.
Uh-huh.
And at that stage, I was like, yes, I've made it. I can travel the world. I can promote my books. I can do whatever I want to do. However, at the back of my head, I still had 450 guests every night. And that was on average. That's how many people would stay in the 130 properties every night, 450 staying in Julie's home. And I still had that responsibility factor. I still had the stress of having employees. Now,
Hmm.
employees, let me tell you, they can stress you out big time. So it was actually just more of a situation. When I was approached to sell my business, someone came to me and said, "We want to come into your local community, but we don't want to come in as your competition. We would like to buy your business." And I said, "No, no, thanks. This is my baby. I'm good." But when I really started to think about it, Sebastian, my passion for operating short-term rental business properties had had lessened. Like the passion had sort of gone out, the flame had expired, and what I was passionate about was helping other entrepreneurs.
Hmm.
And so what I really thought was, okay, well, if there's one person interested in buying my business, perhaps there's two. And so I did find another person. We had a little bit of bidding war there,
No
and I
way. That's
sold the
awesome.
business. And in hindsight, I'm very glad I did, because it was perfect, because COVID then came along and then completely decimated the industry where I was.
So timing was
Uh,
good. Timing was good for you.
yes, the new owners unfortunately went from 130 properties to 80 properties in about
Oh,
six
wow.
months. And
Okay.
I just think, yeah, I still feel very well, a little bit bad that they suffered that. But I think now, if anyone's listening right now, I would say to you, please, even if you're not thinking about selling or exiting, I want you to start your business with the idea that you may just get a tap on the shoulder one day, like I did, or worst case scenario, and I hate to say this, but if you were not here, if you unfortunately passed away,
Hmm.
would your family be able to run the business without you in it? And I think it's really important to set your business up so it's not based or reliant on you, so
Yeah.
that you have got a self-sufficient business. And then you've got the option. If someone comes along and offers you to buy, you can sell it. But if not, you've got a business that if you need to, somebody else can step in and run it for you. So
Yeah, no, that's huge. And I think founders don't realize, those that are very hands on and that have a hard time working on the business versus in the business, they don't realize that, with all the work they're doing, they might be playing the role of, four different, key functions or key employees that would need to be put in place to replace them. So then it
yeah,
becomes very difficult if something happens, if they need to sell the business, whatnot, to have a business that actually runs itself. So I think that's very very crucial what you're saying there. Now, Julie, you coach a lot of entrepreneurs, CEOs, operators, pretty much anyone in the space. What
mm,
would you say is one of the most common mistakes that you see? We talked about not working, in the business, working on the business. What would you say are other common mistakes that you see people, whether that's mental
mhm.
mindset issues and barriers, or whether that's actually, operational and tactical issues when they're looking at having high growth,
Yeah.
high speed growth?
Yeah, I think it's really about not having a good business plan. I'm often surprised how many people I come across that don't know their numbers. They don't know their
Mm,
income, their expenses, just the basics of their business. They may be very good hosts and they're very friendly and they love their guests, but they may be perhaps not good business people. And I think one of the big mistakes that I see is that people may not have a framework in place. And and that's might be a standard operating procedures manual, or it might be a organizational chart to say, right, well, what is the next person that we need to hire into our team to make it, to enhance the business.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really coming back to business basics. And so, as
Got it.
well as doing that self analysis, I think it's about putting a framework in place, procedures and processes, get everything out of your head down in black and white. And I see a lot of people struggle with that, in that you've got to sit there for hours either typing information out or looming, like recording on a
Yeah.
video, everything that you do in your business. But
Mm-hmm.
I promise you, it's just like writing a book. Once you do it once, it's out there for, like it's there then that you can pass that process on to a virtual assistant or pass it on to an operating manager. So I would say to people that if you're listening right now, you're struggling with that whole, maybe you're running your business on your own, you're doing it completely without a team in place, you've got to start thinking about taking some time, setting it aside to put what's in your head down on paper, so that you can then start employing a team to delegate, and then have them run those tasks for you.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. So Julie, let's go back to your story. So
Yeah.
you started these different companies, didn't end up working out. You were a real estate agent. You I think it was you had some properties that were rented long term. One of the units got vacant. That's how you started, into short term rentals, and then you grew all of that. At what point do you tell yourself, I want to start writing books. I want to start doing more things. Like when did the whole $1 million
Oh,
host come into the equation, and how did that happen?
that's a great question. You're good at this, Sebastian. You're probably one of the best podcasters I've come across, and I cannot believe you've only just started. So, um, you are very look, folks. Make sure you tell your friends about this Hospitality Edge podcast, because I know I will be. So, your question is amazing, and I think it really struck me when I got to $1 million turnover with the business. I could not believe it. Like, I just thought, this is incredible. From where I had just discovered in 2016 the earning capabilities of short-term rentals and Airbnb, to 12 months later, I had earned $1.4 million through
Hmm.
Airbnb. Now, I was 100% Airbnb, folks. So you heard Sebastian mention before that I didn't have a PMS, a property management system. I didn't have software, because my philosophy is keep it simple, stupid. And,
Hmm.
and it's, I just wanted to run everything through Airbnb, because I figure they're the marketing masters. They will bring me the guests. I just had to concentrate on finding the listings. And so that was the idea there. But when I earned 1.4 million, I'm not shy about shouting my successes. And so I was shouting it from the rooftops. And of course, everybody kept coming to me saying, "How have you done it? What did you do? What is this? How have you possibly gone from working as a real estate agent to now being financially, free? You've got people working for you, and within 1 year, your whole life has changed to this amazing businesswoman." And so I had people saying that same question over and over. And I thought, right, it's time to tell my story and give everybody as many secrets as I possibly can. A lot of people said to me, "Well, why would you give your secrets out? Why would you share that?" I've got a philosophy of givers gain. If you can
Hmm.
give information and help others, it's going to come back to you tenfold. So karma, givers gain, like just help others, and it will come back, and it has.
Hmm.
So I started writing $1 Million Host, and that was 2017 November. I think I started writing the book, and 2018, early 2018, it came out. So it was for two reasons I wrote that book. Firstly, it was to help others and to answer those questions. So when somebody said, "How did you do it?" I just gave them a book.
Okay. That was
That was
easier. That
easy.
going back to writing
Simple as like,
procedures that are going to serve for life. Hey, you have questions? Go read the book.
go read the book. But it was also the best business card I have ever created. So it was, this has opened so many doors for me. So suddenly, by being a published author, a best-selling author, I had credibility in the space. I was able to get into Brian Chesky's office in Airbnb in San Francisco and leave him a book. But it really opened, it brought in a lot of business as well. So this came out in 2018, And that period of growth, after I had the book out, everybody wanted to do business with me. So it suddenly brought in a lot of business. But the second reason I wrote this book, and this is more heartfelt, is that I have a son who is now 24 years old. At the
Okay.
time, he was, well, about 19 when I wrote the book. He was not interested in what his mother had done. He did not care. He was more interested in alcohol, girls, partying. And I thought to myself, one day this kid is going to want to know what his mother did. And I'm going to write a book. And I even, where is it? I've even put some baby photos of him in here just to embarrass him. Here we go. There's a photo,
Oh
folks, of
yeah.
myself and my son and the secretarial business. But I put photos in there thinking one day this kid is going to actually show his own children what I did for a living. And this is going to outlast me. So we talked about death before. Unfortunately, all of us have an expiration date. One day I'm
Hmm.
not going to be here, but this book's going to last like hundreds of years. And I
Hmm.
figure I'm leaving a legacy for my family. Um,
Wow.
so that is really the reason. And then, of course, I had to write a follow up book. My chapter in Hospitable Host tells the story of how I sold my business, what I'm doing now. And then the latest one, of course, is I've just written the forward in that for some amazing hosts who have all written a chapter each about their journey around in so from around the globe, different hosts around the world telling their story.
So there's a lot of work that goes into publishing a book. Like it
Yes.
definitely is, it's not an easy task, and you
No.
were still running, I mean, the
Mm,
operation, although you had structured it in a way where, you had very accountable people running most of it. But still, like, what's a challenge you faced when writing the book that you were not anticipating? Like,
yeah.
what was that process like, writing your first book?
So the first one was really tricky because I did it myself and I didn't have a publisher. I did it self-published, and I hand wrote a lot of the notes. So I went camping with my ex-husband, and possibly this is why he's my ex-husband, because he we went camping and I'm sitting there writing out my book. So I possibly wasn't paying enough attention to him. Um,
Possibly.
Possibly could answer a few questions here, but I it was a real passion project. But do you know the biggest challenge I faced when writing that book was the the negativity of friends and family who
Wow.
suddenly we have a saying here in Australia called the tall poppy syndrome. If
Okay.
somebody is doing well and they're showing off, or they're talking about themselves and bragging about themselves, other people try and cut them down, cut the tall poppy off so that
Mhm.
you fall and that they make themselves feel better. Now it's really shit. And I'm sorry, I told you I wasn't going to swear on your podcast, but I
I
am.
told you you could.
It's really shit. So of course, when I come out with a book with my face on it and how much money I've earned, I was going against everything that people believed that you shouldn't do. And,
Wow.
like bragging about myself and big noting myself. So I had a lot of people say, who does she think she is? And that really was hard to battle. That
Wow.
really, I had a book launch and I remember inviting lots of friends and family. And of course, they all came. But I look
Mhm.
back now and I think, there was a lot of bitchiness and there was a lot of negativity on. There wasn't the support that perhaps you would think that there was. There is
Mhm.
now. Suddenly, because
Mhm.
I'm now I've made money and I've got a bit of fame and there's people that know who I am. Suddenly, there's a lot of those people trying to come back into my life. Well, sorry, I'm not interested. You proved that you weren't a real close friend back at the time. Now it's a different story. But that was my biggest challenge, to be honest. It
That's
wasn't actually the writing or the
interesting.
publishing. It was just the community response.
And I think it's so interesting to see that other side of the coin, right? There's the fame and whatnot, but there's also, all the hate that comes with
Yeah.
it. And you also faced, some doubts from people when you were starting. Was it your boss when you were a real estate agent that you went to him with the idea of a property management
Yeah.
company, and then he thought it was crazy and he laughed at you, and that's when you decided to quit.
I
So
went, see you later, buddy. Yeah, that's exactly right. I came up with the concept of an Airbnb, a short-term rental property management company. I was working for a real estate broker at the time, and I said to him, "I've got this idea. This is what we should do. We should do short-term rentals, and it'll be great. We're going to make a lot of money." And he scoffed and laughed at me like I said, "Let's go open a lemonade stand." So I promptly went back to my desk. I typed up a resignation letter. I gave it to him. I walked out the door, and within months, I was making more money than him. I poached his best staff members. And the funniest part, and I'm not sure if I've ever told this story, is that when the media, all the books are falling there.
falling, because the story is going to be so good that,
Are you ready
yeah.
for this? It's going to blow up. So when I sold my business, the media reported that I'd sold for millions of dollars. Now they may
Okay.
have slightly exaggerated. I can't tell you the exact figure, but they said she sold for millions of dollars. That guy was on the phone asking for a loan that day.
No
And I
way.
said to him, not even my scum sucking relatives are so bold to ask me for money like you have.
And you know what's crazy, Julie, is that a lot of people will try to go out there and do these things and tell people about it, and they're gonna get the negativity,
Yeah,
and they're gonna let that negativity prevent them from moving forward.
moving forward.
So how did you get through that? The first book,
Mm,
you got that pushback, that negativity that you were not expecting.
mm.
How do you convince yourself that this is still the
It's
path you need to continue? Is it a
yeah,
lot of self-thought? Did you have
it's
some people around that were supportive, or how did you push through that to now be where you're at?
I look back now and I'm quite surprised that I didn't waver and that I didn't give up, because at many times I could have easily just given up,
Hmm.
and then I wouldn't be here talking to you right now. I think it's really about having a belief that anything is possible in this world, and you can create a life by design. And
Hmm.
that is something that I keep, I keep surrounding myself with positive people that enhance my life and support me. Unfortunately, when the negative naysayers are there, I have to let them go. So unfortunately, I had to let a lot of friendships go. Um, I'm no longer married anymore, so that may say something about my husband wasn't perhaps on the same path there either.
Hmm.
And so that's 2 years ago. We split. We're very good friends now, but we were not. I was on a different journey, but I had to keep believing in myself and that self talk, and just saying, just keep going. Anything is possible. And even now, Sebastian, I catch myself going, I cannot believe this amazing life that I'm leading. I've just come back
Hmm.
from Mexico. I'm about to go to Texas in another week. Next week, my job, well, my work is going to take me to a winery here in Australia where I'm celebrating the success of somebody that I've just mentored a few years ago. And I'm going to quickly tell you this story because he had the same ideas. His name is Tim. He came to me as a school teacher, probably probably 4 years ago now, and he said to me, "I want to do what you're doing." And I said, "Do this, 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 and this." He followed everything I said to the letter. He now runs 150 properties and is a multi-million dollar. He's running a multi-million dollar business, but he has set it up so he now travels the world with his wife and three children, and they went to New York this year and Europe, and I'm so proud of him. But every year he flies me down to his winery to celebrate and
Wow.
to say thank you for what I've done for him. But all I ask is that he then pays that forward. And I think that we've got to really embrace people when somebody comes to you with an idea, a concept that maybe they want to be on television, or they want to write a book, or they want to build a business. Please embrace them. Please give them support, because that's the best thing that you can do, and encourage them to follow their dreams.
That's
And
awesome.
It is possible.
It
Like
takes so
you.
much courage. It takes so much courage, Julie, to push through that negativity. And talking about being on TV, is there anything you can tell us about the Netflix show that's coming on?
Yeah, so Netflix, the rumors are right. So Netflix have approached my publisher Jodie, who is the publisher of Hospitable Host, Jodie Sterling in the UK. She is currently working with them. We are filming a pilot episode for based on hospitable hosts. So the concept that Netflix are going with, and I don't know if I'll get in trouble telling you this, but I don't care. Is that if anybody has ever watched the TV show Chef's Table on Netflix, it is about chefs all around the world being interviewed and just showing how running their kitchens may have impacted their local community. So we're going with
Uh-huh.
the same concept where we want to have people from right around the world talk about short-term rentals, just how they've been able to build a business, or perhaps they've just got one property that's really impacted their community or people's lives. And so we are currently filming that pilot series. It's taking a lot longer than expected, but from there it will go through audience testing, production. So there's a lot of hoops to still jump through, but what I'm hoping is that in a few months' time on Netflix, you'll see the show Hospitable Hosts, and you might see
Wow.
my face on that TV show as well. So,
So you were saying earlier, you believe in creating a life by design. I think that's how you said it. Um, so tell us about how you create a life by design. Is it goal setting? Is it visualization? What does that look like for you? What are some best practices that you could share on
yeah.
that side of things?
I think everybody will do this differently, and whether
Yeah.
it's a mood board, where they're putting photos that they've cut out of a magazine and putting them up, or just daydreaming about what their
Uh-huh.
life could entail. And I think the biggest thing that I find people are stuck with is really dreaming big. Like they'll narrow it down and they'll say, I just want to earn $100,000 this year. And guess what? When you have those blinkers on and you say that to yourself and you limit yourself, you're going to get to $100,000 and then probably nothing else will happen. So
Hmm.
I would say to people, dream big and then dream bigger. It's always what I write in my books when I'm autographing those books. But I would, for me personally, that's what I struggle with now, to be honest, Sebastian, is I'm living this life where I can travel wherever I want. I'm getting paid to do the travel, to speak on stages in
Hmm.
London, go to Scotland, hang out in Spain, go off to Mexico. And every month until the end of this year, I will be going across the Pacific back to the United States or to Mexico to do events. And so my biggest challenge at the moment is to say, what's next? And for me, television is possibly the way that I guess, growing up, fame to me was always the people that were on the television and having a celebrity on the television. So to
Hmm.
me, television is probably where I would like to go next. I'm glad we're recording this because we will look back hopefully in 12 months and go, she was right. She's on TV now. So, um,
It was part of the design. Yeah, no,
yeah, it
it's
is.
it's 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 tough to once you go past a certain level in terms of quality or life. How do you stay hungry? And because I think otherwise, if you just conform, then like you were saying about the property management business, you lost the flame.
I did.
um isn't it sad that you can get to a point, and for some people, maybe that's fine if you're happy with where you are. I think there's no problem with that. But for those that have that itch, and they have that fire burning inside of themselves, they know they want to do more. It's a challenge to get to a point where you conform, and now
Yeah,
you don't strive for more. So I'm glad you're doing that. I'm glad you are
thank
pushing the
you.
boundaries and aiming for more. You are a big inspiration, Julie. And so tell us about some of your masterminds,
Hmm.
and give us an overview of the different things you have going on as far as
What am I
coaching,
doing? Yeah.
masterminds, what's the difference, and who is it for?
Yeah, at the moment. So what I'm doing, I still don't like to work very much. So let's be clear, that 10 hours a week is enough for me. So what I've done, my life by design for my business now, $1 Million Host, is that I do one-on-one coaching, but I
Hmm.
only select to work with maybe 5 or 6 companies at a time, because I did previously, I was doing group coaching with short-term rental operators. Now, that's all well and good, but I find that there's no one size fit all answer for this business.
Hmm.
Every business is different. And I would rather sit with you, Sebastian, and say, okay, tell me about your business. Let's have a look at your numbers. Let's have a look at your contracts. Let's see what your biggest bottlenecks are. Let me be part of your team and let's work on it together. So I do work with a select number of people for that, and I'm very picky about who I work with. They've got to be already established, and they need to be people that I know that are willing to learn and that can be taught.
Yeah.
So that's something that I do one on one. But then I've just recently, in the last month, launched a mastermind community. What I've done is I've got it's an app and it's a website, a platform where it's called the $1 Million Host Mastermind Community, where you can come in and have immediate access to any discussion thread or group that you find relevant for you in the short-term rental industry. It's open for people that are providers in the industry, such as the dynamic pricing people can come in, but it's also open to people that are just brand new to the space or who are running 1,000 properties. So they can come in and they can select to go into a group talking about regulations, or they can come in and talk about interior design or boutique hotel purchases. So immediately 24/7 access to all these conversations going on. And it's very much a mix of the good old Clubhouse. Now, I don't know if anyone listening in was on Clubhouse, but that's where a lot of us connected as influencers in this industry. But also, I say it's very much similar to Slack on crack,
Okay.
I'm going to say. So,
Okay.
Slack on crack is the way I describe it. So, it's a mix of Slack on crack with Clubhouse. You come in, you have these discussions, but I've gamified it as well. The more you engage in the community, the more points you get, and we win. You can win prizes at the end of the month for being the most engaged member. So we give out prizes, but we also take action together. So we have an eco challenge on at the moment to talk about how we can help the environment in our properties. What are we doing? Like maybe it's cleaning products that we're using, or we're using, like there may be something that we're doing in our products that other people can take that tip and implement it around the world. But we've got people from Japan, South Africa, Australia, America, all in this community. There's about 70 people in there as of today.
Wow.
But I'm hoping that we will have hundreds in there. And once a month, we do a live Zoom where we have specific topics. So yesterday we
Hmm.
did unlocking Google secrets and SEO. We've
Hmm.
done artificial intelligence. We are going to do something on midterm rentals and how to increase your bookings. But that's something I'm going to get. You need to be joining that group as well, Sebastian, because I need everybody to be then getting onto the Hospitality Edge podcast from
No,
that
that's
group. So
amazing. That's amazing. And is it more for people that are, do you have more people that are starting out? Do you have
mm,
people that are already established, or is it, a
yeah,
mix
it's
of
a bit
both?
of a mix, but the majority at the moment are very established because they're people that I've either worked with before. So we're talking big names. We're talking Will Slickers. We're talking Mark Simpson, Rachel Gainsborough, uh, TJ Tajani. Like there's a lot of the big names in the industry. They're all in there. So
Hmm.
if you want access not only to me, you want access to some of these people. They're in the community. You can send them messages. You can ask for their help. We're all giving each other. We're sharing documents, contracts,
Hmm.
templates, and straight away, if you come into the community, you get every document I used in my business is in there.
That's so
Look, at the
valuable.
moment,
That
actually,
that
I'm going to.
that in and of itself has no price.
I
Having the
know.
right documents, the right procedures, and even access to the people that have done it. And yeah, no, that's awesome. That's awesome. And what about the mastermind? We missed each other in Cabo.
Oh,
I was also there, and not in time for your event, but
no.
I'm so sad I missed this. But what is that one about? Is that also
Yeah.
going to be a recurring thing?
It is indeed. So I get together once a year with a group of coaches. Some of the people I just named then, but there's 6 coaches, and we have a 7-figure mastermind group. So it's basically the coaches who have all achieved 7 figures in their businesses, bringing together their students. And this year we went to Cabo San Lucas for 4 nights. We went to an all-inclusive resort. We had during the day we were in the conference rooms, and we were masterminding, and we were talking, like we were doing presentations, and we were really helping each other with it might be creative financing, or it might be regulations, or how to get government contracts with short-term rentals. So we were talking about those sorts of things, but then in the afternoons and the nights we were out on luxury yachts and having a great time. So a lot of the poolside chats, we're in the pool having cocktails. A lot of the time, that is where all the deals were done or the
Hmm.
information was shared. And um, absolutely, if anybody's interested in coming along to those sorts of events, get in touch. But I'm now holding events right around the world. So whether it's at any of so just a couple of them that are coming up, and this is where I wanted to see if I'm going to run into you, Mr. Muniz. But I will be going to the Short-Term Rental Growth Summit in Austin, Texas, the 10th to the
Okay.
12th of September. I'm emceeing that event, and it's only going to be a smaller group. There'll be 200, 250 people. So that's where, if you want to come to that event, you will get access to myself, to TJ Tajani, to Rachel Gainsborough, to some of the big names. We will all be there. But that's one of the events. VRMA in Orlando. And now
For
that's going to be
sure.
the 22nd to the 25th of October. I'm going there, but I'm holding a golf day, a golf tournament, and a clubhouse party the day prior. Now, I'm not a golfer, so I'm going to be in the clubhouse holding the party. Um, but, folks, and then, of course, the other one that I think you may be at is in Cancun in November. There
Yeah.
is is it VR Expo or
Expo RV. Yeah.
Expo RV? So I'm speaking at that event as well. And
Nice. That's
I have never
awesome.
been to Cancun, but I cannot wait.
We'll for sure see each other at those events. And here I want to understand something, Julie, because you talk with people that are working in all different kinds of models: investors, property managers, arbitrage operators, and you've done this yourself as well for a long time. If you are starting over, or you're talking with someone that's looking to get into the space, what would be your go-to model? Because each one has pros and cons.
Yeah,
Arbitrage, it's easier to scale,
yeah.
perhaps.
But
You don't
riskier.
have, it's
Yeah.
less capital intensive, but there's challenges that come with it. I know you also do a little bit, I might be
I
wrong, of
do.
arbitrage as
I've got
well.
one across the road here now. I used to be totally against arbitrage, let me tell you. So you'll
What
hear
changed
some
your
of my
mind then?
opportunity. I was always against it because it was risky. In that I had to sign a lease under my own business name or my own name. I had to furnish the property, which was, to me, I don't want to use my own money to do, to start a business. And so it wasn't until an opportunity fell in my lap where this property across the road from where I live became available. And it's the most popular tourist destination here in this city I live in Australia. There's no short term rentals within a 2 block radius. And when I saw this property available for rent, I said, right, I need to put about $20,000 of furniture in it to make it ready. Um, but the return, so at the moment, so let me give you some numbers. At the moment, I'm paying $3,000 rent on it a month,
Yeah.
but I'm making $8,000 rent on it a month. Sorry,
Good.
income on it a month.
Yeah.
So, hello, that works. But typically, arbitrage is not my favorite because of the high risk
The
and
risk, yes.
yeah,
You might
that's
be stuck with it, and if it doesn't
exactly.
work out,
And I saw
then
so many in COVID, so many operators become secondhand furniture dealers because they had all these properties that had furniture. So my go-to would still be short-term rental property management, co-hosting
Mhm.
for a commission, because what you can do is you can get a fully furnished property. You can take on 2 or 3 a week if you need to, if you've got the right systems and framework in place. But what it does is it gives you cash flow very quickly to then reinvest into property assets. So long-term wealth is always through owning real estate, and that's what I do. So I own properties at the moment, but I would cash flow it from property management.
Okay, and that was going to be my other question too, because you started as a real estate agent, a broker, but you also had a portfolio of long term rentals. You know, do you still have multifamily long term rentals, or is are all of your assets currently short term rentals? How diversified are you?
No, they're not. I've got to tell you. So I've got 4 properties that are still long term leased, and
Yeah.
the reason being, the reason I haven't taken them back to short term rentals is our market in Australia hasn't corrected properly after COVID. So where those properties are in Cairns, where the Great Barrier Reef is very famous. Now those properties, we relied heavily on the Chinese market. Now the
Hmm.
Chinese market were the ones that were booking those properties most often, and that's where our rates, there was a high rate. The Chinese market has not come back to Australia, and unfortunately, the margins are so narrow up there in that town for between long term and short term. For me, at the moment, the stability is more important, and the guaranteed income of the long term. So even though but folks, please, this is all dependent on what location you're in. So
For sure.
where I live is in Brisbane now, and I arbitrage property here because it just works. But what I want you to do is, if you're listening right now, and I don't want you to think that you've got to go one way or the other. There is no set answer here, but you've got to look at your own circumstances, your location, your market, run your numbers, do your due diligence, go to AirDNA, have a look on Airbnb, STR Insights is another good website to have a look at. But you've got to know that the numbers are there, the income is there to be able to put the effort into taking on properties.
And financing is also another challenge sometimes
Oh,
with
yes.
short-term rentals, whereas with traditional long-term rentals it tends to be easier to underwrite and whatnot. Are you looking at acquiring more properties as short-term rentals? Is that something that you're also looking into?
I think so. I'm actually, so it's interesting that you asked that, because I just met with my financial planner who said, all right, what's the next move? Where are we going and
Okay.
what are we doing? And I'm not 100% sure, but I am now gearing up to look to either invest again in another property,
Hmm.
or business, or
Okay.
I don't know whether I'm able to purchase in North America, for instance. I think I've got to do that with cash. I don't think I can get a loan there, um, but yeah, it's so watch this space. I haven't got an answer on that one for you, but it could be by the
It's
time we
work
catch
in
up in
progress.
Cancun, maybe I could buy something in Cancun.
That's the interesting thing, right? Once you are exposed to the international short-term rental market, the possibilities are endless. And with a structure of co-hosts that have accountability, that have equity, that have basically their own set of responsibilities, then I think international property ownership becomes possible, right? um, so I'm really looking forward, Julie, to hearing more about everything that you're doing. I'm looking forward to seeing the Netflix show coming
Yeah,
out, maybe the next book that's coming out as well, if there's another one in the works. And I'm also curious to know how you're gonna invest, what's gonna be your next
next.
investment. Yeah. So let me know how that conversation with the financial planner goes. For anyone here that wants to follow you, that wants to stay in touch with you, I mean, pretty much you're everywhere. But
Yeah.
what's the best place for people to stay in touch with you?
Absolutely. So I have got a website. It is milliondollarhost.com.au. We might be able to put it in the show notes as well. But
Yeah.
also, folks, please don't be shy. I'm on all social medias. So if you look up Million Dollar Host on Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, I'm even on TikTok, and Facebook, Julie George, Million Dollar Host. I would love for you to connect with me. Sebastian, I think we should do something for your listeners. If anybody is listening right now, the first 5 people to connect with me on social media or send me a message on my website and say that they heard me on the Hospitality Edge podcast, we will send you an ebook, $1 Million Host. So let's give out five books to your listeners, but it's the first 5. So folks, you're listening right now, jump on milliondollarhost.com.au, jump on Instagram, Facebook, find me, send me a message, a DM, say that you heard the podcast, and let's give you a book.
That's so generous. That's so generous, Julie. Thanks so much, and really happy to have you on the show. I think it was amazing. A lot of nuggets, a lot of valuable insights, and I look forward to maybe having you on the next episode.
There we go. Thanks so much for having me, Sebastian. And honestly, you are one of the best podcasters I have been interviewed by. So congratulations.
Oh wow! And you've been interviewed by a lot, so that means a lot.
A lot. So
all right. Well, talk to you soon.